Okay, I've had to start a new video, and I'm now inside the caravan of my second caravan for the volunteers, and it's my study caravan. I enjoy just listening to music here after a nice day. I enjoy the coldness outside, contrasting with the wood burner on the inside, where in fact it's a charcoal burner. Um, and I have great joy in just being in this type of comfort zone, which is very different to the caravan I live in. Um, this caravan was salvaged, and it's already has my personality into it. So I've built shelves and put my small library of books in here for people to study. There's a lot of ecology uh, and gardening and wildlife and natural therapies and that type of thing. How to do this, how to do that. There's some charts. But what creates this space really is the fact that I stripped everything out of it and just cleaned it. I didn't try to decorate it too much, and then just made it a very practical place to be in. So I've got my Bluetooth speaker up there, which needs recharging. I've got my rechargeable lamp, and I'm limited by the amount of energy that's coming into the system. So if I haven't charged those up, then I can't really use this space. So I put a candle here, I can just listen. But in a sense of being practical, in the sense of reading or study, which is what I do, I read Spanish books over there to improve my Spanish. In terms of that, it needs to be, I need to have a certain amount of energy coming into the system. So when we look at permaculture systems, we look at the flow of energy and how to maximize the use of that energy and trap it in a system. So this is already a very warm part of the land because there's much more exposure to the sun, so I get a lot of passive solar heat coming into this caravan, and there's no insulation until I get the material. This caravan will always require a wood burner or a charcoal burner to make it comfortable for my volunteers, you know, and volunteers are not expected to suffer in tents during gale force winds or even heavy rain and that type of thing. So we had to rebuild the skylight, and I have a little storage space here for some water, a small washing machine in there if I need it, which again can be run off a small generator, and I have a nice view in a quiet space away from all the neighbours and the noise from the main house, either from the dogs or from the generator, which is running there all the time, it seems. So minimize your lifestyles to a certain degree and just use the energy that's coming to the system naturally, and just think about how to maximize that energy. Okay, I don't know if you can hear that. One of the best investments I've ever made. That's a wind turbine, which is up there, and it's an Air Max. It's beautiful in the sense that it registers how much wind there is, and it can actually control the braking on the sails so that it doesn't needlessly wear out the turbine. It's actually producing all the energy I need at the moment, charging up a load of batteries which are in here, and I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. So there's been quite a lot of works here. So you're looking at the entrance to my food tunnel, and it's probably the centre of operations, and you'll understand why, because it's a place where resources are collected and distributed. So whilst there's so little sun in the winter, and I have one little solar panel up there which is probably receiving a little bit of energy, most of it is coming from the wind, and as you can see, it's an absolute essential part to a system, a permaculture system, a sustainable working system here, which is practical, where you can charge up your phones, your speakers, your lights, want to show you something else. So this is something else I built. This is my battery shed. Before it's just a plastic thing which kept on blowing away and it got ripped to pieces in the wind. So now I've created something which is permanent. And as you can see under here, maybe, there are 2 more batteries which are waterproof, but they are gel batteries, which means you can store them on the in various positions. Inside here are another 3 batteries. And whether you can see that or not, I've got my control box, my pumps in there. And you may be asking yourself, well, how do you access it? Well, that was the idea behind it, is that I'll have a removable roof on the top. But it would require 2 people to actually slide out the concrete block which I made on the rooftop. And the idea behind it was to prevent the opportunist thief from stealing my batteries. But you know, I have circuit breakers in there, I have earths to ground, I also have switches to turn things on and off. I collect water, use the pumps collect water from the rain and pump it up into these top systems here. Have my supply of firewood, and I've been making lots of charcoal. And I've got some rabbit manure over there, recycled olive mats which are used for pressing for oil, and there's my dog, and things you find in the dry riverbeds when you go and take walks with them, which are worth salvaging. And this is the outdoor dry composting toilet. It's only 1 wheelie bin under there at the moment, but it shows that these pallets, if you allow enough wind to break through them, it will prevent the structure from actually being blown away, because anything that was impermeable will just get smashed to pieces in the types of winds that we get here. So I'm not talking about tornadoes, I'm just talking about natural gusts of between 100 and 150 kilometers an hour. So you need permeable structures. And if I show you a quick view of the side of the food tunnel, you see I'm using cane there as a permeable structure to allow wind to break through it and slow down its passage. So what am I going to do here? Well, this is a really funky spot for the dogs to actually lie under. I mean, they don't mind the smell of poop. It's not really that obvious, the smell. And everything's rotting in the rain. This wood I find down at the bin, so I'm only have to replace it maybe once every 8 to 10 months. But it is rotting, look. But it still has its integrity about it, and the time will come when I will have to change the wood again. And there's charcoal to throw in after usage, and a little bit of water if you want to clean yourself afterwards. So this is going to be my crown, and I'm recycling an old rotten yurt. So I have some roof ribs down there, and I'm going to create a support for the crown here with these roof ribs coming up all the way around, and then it's going to be woven like the food tunnel with cane. So it will again be an impermeable structure. It's not going to be waterproof. Water's going to be allowed to go through it, go through the pallets which I'm standing on, but it will certainly create about 80% protection. And eventually, I mean, I've got a jasmine down there which is going to climb all over it. I've got a vine down here which will eventually climb all over it, and there's going to be a wooden staircase on both sides. So with this crown up in the air, held up by a support structure, and then with the roof ribs, I'm going to actually put a stained glass window in there. I have made it 20 years ago for my parents, but they never used it, and their reason was, oh, someone's going to steal that. Well, for 20 years it's been packaged up in the attic, and it's something I designed, It's Dante's The Thinker, and with a Catalonian landscape behind it. So the idea is that this image of a man sitting on a rock is now translated to the image of a man sitting on his toilet seat, thinking about the future, or thinking about where to go from here. It's a very interesting parody in a way, but it has total relevance. A lot of people spend a lot of time in the toilet. I personally don't, but I like the idea of volunteers coming in, having time to think, and just looking up and seeing a stained glass window, which is beautifully designed, reflecting various images and tones during the year as the sun moves through the seasons. It will probably be facing south, which is where the sun is now, and then reflecting an image on the inside of this structure. Does that make sense? Okay, so where am I now? I'm at the corner of the chicken pen. So they've got a nice piece of land in there to mess up in a way, but it's a good thing because they shit everywhere. And I've started planting a wild apple hedge with some what we call jujube, or in English we call it jujube fruit. It's going to be a nice wild hedge for the chickens and any other animals that will be living in there in the future, as well as olives, and maybe plant out a few other things. I may even create another food tunnel inside to make use of all the manure, the recycling, the natural recycling going on when you begin to associate with all these different elements in society. So working with animals is a really important part of a permaculture system, as well as working with other humans, volunteers for instance, distribution of energy, looking at flow, looking at natural design, and trying to build into that natural design some sort of provision. So whatever comes into a system, you need to be there ready for it, or have designed a system that's going to work for you when you're not around. So here comes the chickens. They're looking for a little bit of cabbage from the food tunnel, which I give them on a regular basis, and I just throw the old leaves in, sometimes with caterpillars on them and small eggs and that type of thing, so they get a little bit more protein than they would just eating the cabbage leaf. But this area where I'm standing now is a dry stone wall to my right, and there's a fence to my left, and I like the idea of having a couple of sheep in the future, and that was one of the reasons why I was gifted, or asked for a sheepdog. So Ginger, the new dog, who you may have seen in other videos, is in fact a half border collie, half pastor Catalan. And Ginger is going to hopefully this is Dora. Ginger hopefully is going to be my trained sheepdog, and I just maybe want a bunch of sheep to live in there with the chickens, doing their thing, and then using the sheep to graze the land around me, so I don't have to go and fire up a lawnmower or a strimmer, you know. Save energy that way because you've got an animal doing it for you. She's my lady. She's my lady, she's. So I've got a windbreak here. I've got a windbreak here, which are cypress trees. They're now so established, I just forget about them. Eventually they will create the windbreak which I need for a food growing area, which I've planned for the future over there. And maybe to create some sort of staple crop, I will interplant rows of the rows of olive trees with an annual crop for seed saving, for online sales, and I've got friends who do that. But just create another staple, because in a way I'd like to be 80 to 90% self-sufficient here, and to give away surplus or to barter. So I visualize not in the sense of a of a dream which will never come true, but in the sense of like, I'm capable of doing this. All I need to do is put in place certain elements and to think about and keep that vision in mind, so that when you make decisions in the future, those decisions focus towards your vision. So the idea for me is to imagine some sheep or goats being herded into here, and I'll put a gate over there into the chicken pen, because there's actually no escape for sheep on the other end. So I can close it off, start thinking about how am I going to extend the wall area here. Do I build a temporary structure, that type of thing. Wait for the resources when they come. It's providence. When they come, you adapt, and that way you adapt to natural wild systems and wild energies, which is the root basis of permaculture. So to end this video, I want to say I'm just about to take a shower. I'll show you something. Well, I'm in full clothes, so I'm not going to jump underneath it now, but this water can easily be directed to various other parts of the food tunnel. It just gives me great joy to hear that wind turbine, because it's such a great investment. I mean, I've got everything second-hand, including the batteries, and I can really withdraw from the house to a main degree. I mean, it's like, I don't know how long my folks are going to be around for, but I don't like living in that house. And even I've just gifted them a wood burner because the house is so cold. The energy there is very bad, and that's mind-body balance again. Being able to generate my own electric is really quite important to do some really basic stuff. So not to be addicted to technology, but to understand that it can work for you invisibly, not to be dependent on it, and to allow it to control your life is very important, in the sense of what would happen if you took that system away. Can you continue to readapt, or do you have a crisis? So you have to think about what would happen if certain elements were removed from a system, and then what other elements can be substituted into it. So look at mind-body balance as a way of looking at your relationship between, say, technology and ecology, between nature and culture. I came back from Mallorca after 12 days stay there with kidney poisoning. Now I was in perfect form. I came back, and maybe it was a stress trigger. I went and picked up an empty hive. I had lost another beehive. I went into town, had a coffee, and literally I bent over double, almost like caveman, and I was walking around like this, you see. And I thought to myself, damn, is this another hernia? No, it's kidney poison, because I had discoloration in my urine, and it's what we call, what I've been experiencing, what many people understand, autoimmune disease. It attacks various parts of your body, and it attacks my kidneys, but at the same time it attacked all the muscle structures around the back there as well. It attacks your groins, your loins, various glands in your body. It causes dryness in your scalp. It can cause itchiness. I mean, I suffered from it 30 years ago, and I used to have itchy toes. It moves around, and I realised that the only way to defeat it is to keep going. You bend over double like that, and I thought to myself, what am I going to lie in bed? No, I carried on with a rake. You know, I basically had a rake, and I was just like, okay, I can still do a little bit of work. Here we are. Obviously it wasn't a hernia. I've just been for a jog. And I suffered from it 3 years ago when I went to Glastonbury for Christmas solstice, and I got into a very, very freezing pool of water. 2, 3, 4 times at least. And even though I had a wonderful experience there, I was crippled for 3 days. It's extremely painful, but it's, for me, I a way of looking at mind-body balance. You know, I don't need to know what caused it, whether there was an artificial or a natural trigger. All I need to see is that there's a circular logic and everything's connected, and I need to adapt so I can take it into consideration. I need to be able to improvise and use it for stimulation for we have a wonderful word in Spanish called solucionar, which means to find a solution, and to find a solution for all possibilities in the future. And that's what nature does. It's so biodiverse that it's a completely living organic system, which means that the mind is not disconnected from the body, the atmosphere is not disconnected from the geology or the living plants and animals which are on its surface. It's not disconnected from the sun. It's not disconnected from the other solar systems which are in the universe. And when you start looking at things macrocosmically and microcosmically, you realize that you are son and we are surrounded by, or daughter, excuse me, and you are surrounded by Father Chaos. And the hero goes and visits Father Chaos. You step out of culture, you step out of what we disagree with, because you don't like it, because it's not treating you well, you feel abused by it. So as an anarchist, a spiritual anarchist, you step out and say to yourself, okay, can I recreate my own? So you do, you personalize your space around you, and you make conscious the unconscious. You personalize what's impersonal, and you bring it into you. You make that connectedness in mind and body. So the connectedness here is the ecology, is to creating the food systems, the recycling of manures and animals, providing various foods, that type of thing. So I was crippled and I carried on, and it's extreme pain, but you adapt and you think to yourself, well, must I bear that in mind when I make my next decision? You know, am I going to go cycling and or going to go for another job, or am I going to eat this particular type of food which I may have a sensitivity to? And actually, when I suffered the same sort of kidney poison 3 years ago, I went on a big bike ride from here to the Baltic Sea, which was about 2,000 kilometers, and I did it on a small fold-up 20-inch wheel bicycle with a guitar on the back. It was the greatest ride I'd ever done. It was so fantastic. 1 month. So I loved it, and I came out that feeling super strong. Don't give up, don't stop. Try and identify the problem holistically, and then it will provide for you the unconscious solutions, because you're always doing this trip to the unconscious, back to the conscious. You must appreciate the unconscious to be able to do that trip. You start sticking up barriers, which is a problem with human cultures. I mean, they're talking about, you know, trying to make you immortal physically, but why? Because these people who are talking about that are disconnected from the infinite, disconnected from the spirituality of existence. The fact that there's been billions of years of life before us. They're disconnected from that, and they only see themselves in terms of a conscious personality rather than unconscious personality. You have to see the whole system to be able to benefit from the system and to rid yourself of all those fears. So with that in mind, I'm going to take a shower, and I wish you all the best New Year. Whatever happens, whether I can get back from the UK after this, after my trip to Africa, where I'm going to do some permaculture, and then to the UK, whether I can get back and experience a year here, I'm not really sure, but I've already taken that into consideration because I've got some money in the UK, and I've never been to Asia, and I've never been to South America, and I really want to travel and see some of these ancient indigenous traditions, which can offer a lot more than modern Western civilization has. Thank you very much.